The story of the United States begins long before anyone called this land America. For thousands of years, indigenous peoples thrived across the continent. They lived in harmony with the land, hunting, fishing, and cultivating crops like corn, beans, and squash. Each tribe had its own language, culture, and traditions. The Iroquois, the Cherokee, the Sioux, and countless other nations shaped the land in ways that would later surprise European settlers. They built villages, developed trade networks, and understood the seasons and nature in ways that were profound and complex. When the first European explorers arrived, the world of these native peoples would change forever. Christopher Columbus, in his famous voyage across the Atlantic, never reached the mainland that would later become the United States. But his journeys opened the door for other explorers, adventurers, and settlers who sought new opportunities. Soon, Spain, France, and England sent men across the ocean to claim land, trade with natives, and, sometimes, conquer. The French explored the rivers and forests of the northern regions, trading furs and forming alliances with certain tribes. Spain established missions and settlements in the south and west, while England focused on the eastern coast, establishing colonies that would later grow into powerful communities. Life in these early colonies was not easy. Settlers faced harsh winters, diseases, and conflicts with native tribes, who were often resisting European intrusion. Yet the colonies grew, slowly at first, and then with increasing speed. Each settlement developed its own character. Some, like those in New England, were built around towns and churches, emphasizing education and community. Others, like the southern colonies, developed large plantations where crops like tobacco, rice, and indigo became the basis of wealth. The labor on these plantations often came from enslaved Africans, whose lives and struggles would leave a deep mark on the country's history. The colonies were also shaped by ideas. The English brought with them notions of law, governance, and personal rights. These ideas, combined with the experiences of life in a new land, gave rise to a sense of independence. People began to question who should hold power and how it should be used. Taxes imposed by a distant king in England became increasingly unpopular, and conflicts began to simmer. The famous slogan, "No taxation without representation," captured the growing frustration. These tensions would eventually lead to a bold and historic decision. In the middle of the 18th century, the colonies declared that they would no longer be ruled by England. The Declaration of Independence, a document crafted by brilliant thinkers and leaders, announced to the world that the colonies were free and that they had certain unalienable rights. This was not merely a statement on paper. It was a challenge to one of the most powerful nations on earth. The fight for independence was fierce and uncertain. Men and women from all walks of life joined the cause. They fought in battles that were brutal and exhausting, often with little pay, poor equipment, and uncertain chances of victory. Yet, over time, the courage and determination of the revolutionaries began to turn the tide. Leaders like George Washington guided the Continental Army through terrible winters, harsh terrain, and strategic setbacks. Allies from overseas, most notably France, provided critical support, giving supplies, troops, and strategic insight that helped the colonies gain an advantage. Every battle, every letter, every sacrifice brought them closer to a dream that seemed almost impossible at times, a free and independent nation. When the war finally ended, the newly independent states faced another challenge. They needed a government, a system that could unite them while respecting the freedoms they had fought for. The Articles of Confederation, the first attempt at a national government, proved insufficient. leaders gathered in Philadelphia to draft a constitution, a document designed to balance power, protect rights, and ensure that the country could function effectively. This was a bold experiment, one that had never been attempted on such a scale before. The debates were intense. Some feared too much power in a central government, while others worried that too little authority would lead to chaos. In the end, a compromise was reached, creating a framework that would guide the nation for centuries to come. With the Constitution in place, the United States began to grow rapidly. The first president, a man who had become a symbol of integrity and leadership, set the tone for future leaders. Cities expanded, roads and canals connected distant regions, and new states joined the Union. Yet this growth came with its own struggles. The issue of slavery remained unresolved. Northern states moved toward abolition, while the Southern economy remained deeply dependent on enslaved labor. Tension simmered quietly at first, but as the country expanded westward, the differences became impossible to ignore. Exploration and migration shaped much of the early 19th century. Pioneers traveled west, following trails through mountains, deserts, and vast plains. They sought land, opportunity, and a chance to create a better life. Native Americans were often forced from their homelands, leading to heartbreaking conflicts and suffering. The story of westward expansion is one of courage, hope, and tragedy all at once. Gold was discovered in the far west, sparking a rush of fortune seekers and changing entire regions practically overnight. Railroads and telegraphs connected people and ideas, shrinking the vast distances that had once seemed insurmountable. At the same time, industrialization transformed the country. Factories rose in cities, producing goods faster and more efficiently than ever before. Immigrants arrived in huge numbers, bringing energy, skills, and new traditions. Cities became crowded and noisy, filled with the promise of opportunity but also the harsh realities of labor and poverty. Social movements began to emerge. People called for better working conditions, women fought for their right to vote, and reformers challenged long-standing injustices. The United States was becoming a nation of complexity, diversity, and constant change, despite progress. Divisions over slavery intensified, leading to a conflict that would test the nation in unimaginable ways. When Southern states seceded, the country faced its greatest challenge yet. The Civil War tore families, communities, and the nation itself apart. Battles were fought with ferocity and determination, and the human cost was staggering. Leaders emerged on both sides, some celebrated for strategy, others remembered for courage in the face of immense suffering. The war ended with the preservation of the Union, but the scars remained. The process of Reconstruction attempted to rebuild the South and integrate freed African Americans into society, but it faced resistance, setbacks, and years of struggle. Following the war, the United States entered a period of rapid growth and innovation. Immigrants continued to arrive, and the country became a melting pot of cultures and ideas. The economy boomed in some regions, fueled by steel, railroads, and new inventions. Cities expanded skyward, and technology began to transform everyday life. Electricity, telephones, and automobiles changed how people lived, worked, and communicated. Yet not all benefited equally. Workers in factories often faced long hours, low wages, and dangerous conditions, prompting the rise of labor unions and social reform movements. At the same time, the United States began to play a larger role on the global stage. The Spanish-American War marked the beginning of overseas influence, and the country became involved in international conflicts that tested its resources, military, and ideals. The early 20th century brought both triumphs and challenges. The First World War demonstrated the nation's growing power, while the Great Depression tested its resilience. Families faced hunger, unemployment, and uncertainty, yet communities found ways to support each other, innovate, and survive. This period also saw remarkable cultural growth. Literature, music, and art flourished. Jazz spread from New Orleans to cities across the country. Writers explored the human experience, capturing the struggles and dreams of ordinary people. The United States was transforming not just politically and economically, but culturally, creating a shared identity that blended countless influences. Even as the country recovered from economic hardship, another global conflict loomed. World War II drew the United States into battles far from its shores, challenging its military, industry, and society. The war effort united people across classes and races, bringing women into the workforce in unprecedented ways and inspiring technological innovation. Victory abroad came at a tremendous cost, but it solidified the United States' role as a world power and set the stage for a new era of prosperity, tension, and change as the war ended. The nation entered a period of optimism and rapid growth. Suburbs expanded, new technologies emerged, and the baby boom transformed demographics. Yet, the promise of equality remained unfulfilled for many. The civil rights movement grew in strength and determination, demanding that the principles of freedom and justice apply to all citizens, regardless of race. Leaders, ordinary citizens, and communities came together to challenge systemic discrimination, sometimes facing violent resistance, but ultimately making significant strides toward justice. And this is where our story pauses for now. The story of America is far from complete. The events we have covered show a land of immense opportunity, extraordinary struggle, and remarkable courage. Yet, the journey continues, with new challenges, discoveries, and transformations on the horizon. How did the United States navigate the tension between rapid growth and deep social change? How did it face the Cold War, the struggle for equality, and technological revolutions that reshaped everyday life? As the United States emerged from the aftermath of World War II, it entered a new era, one marked by unprecedented prosperity and rapid change. Soldiers returned home to reunite with families and build careers, fueling what became known as the post-war boom. Cities expanded, new suburbs sprang up on the outskirts, and highways stretched across the land, connecting people and places like never before. Homes with white picket fences and the hum of newly acquired automobiles became symbols of the American dream. Yet, beneath this optimism, society was grappling with deeper challenges, questions of equality, and the pressures of a changing world. One of the most significant struggles was the fight for civil rights. African Americans, who had contributed so greatly to the nation's development and wartime efforts, continued to face systemic discrimination, segregation, and violence. In the South, Jim Crow laws enforced racial inequality in schools, transportation, and public spaces. African Americans in the North confronted housing discrimination, job inequality, and limited political influence. But the determination to challenge injustice grew stronger. Grassroots organizations, religious leaders, and everyday citizens began to organize protests, marches, and boycotts. The civil rights movement reached a defining moment when leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. called for nonviolent resistance, inspiring millions with powerful speeches and unwavering courage. The March on Washington, the Montgomery bus boycott, and countless other acts of civil disobedience captured national attention. forcing the country to confront the gap between its ideals and its reality. Over time, these efforts led to historic legislation, dismantling legalized segregation and establishing new protections for voting rights. Yet, even after these victories, the struggle for equality continued, reminding Americans that freedom and justice are never fully achieved but must be defended and renewed by each generation. Meanwhile, the United States was navigating its role on the global stage during the tense years of the Cold War. The rivalry with the Soviet Union defined international politics for decades. Fear of communism influenced domestic policies, foreign interventions, and the everyday lives of Americans. The threat of nuclear war loomed large, shaping how people lived, worked, and imagined the future. At the same time, the nation sought to lead in science, technology, and culture. The space race captured the public imagination, culminating in a historic moment when humans first set foot on the moon. Television broadcasts, photographs, and newsreels brought these achievements into homes across the country, inspiring pride, curiosity, and a sense of limitless possibility. Technological advancements were not limited to space exploration. The rise of computers, televisions, and new communication networks transformed everyday life. Industries evolved, jobs shifted, and education became an essential pathway to success. As technology connected people in ways previously unimaginable, it also exposed social and economic disparities. The post-war dream of stability and prosperity was real for many, but not universal. Cities faced challenges with poverty, racial tensions, and the changing economy. Activists, thinkers, and leaders sought solutions, experimenting with programs in housing, healthcare, and education. The debates and policies of this era would shape the nation for decades to come. The late 20th century brought further transformation in American society. The counterculture movement of the 1960s and 70s challenged traditional norms, advocating for peace, equality, and personal freedom. Music, art, and literature reflected these changing values, giving voice to the hopes, frustrations, and dreams of a generation. Women fought for equal rights, demanding opportunities in education, employment, and political life. The feminist movement gained momentum, reshaping laws and cultural expectations. Simultaneously, movements for environmental protection, LGBTQ rights, and other social causes emerged, reflecting a broader awareness that the American story was not just about economics or politics, but about human dignity, justice, and opportunity for all. At the same time, the United States faced complex political challenges. Presidents grappled with foreign conflicts, economic crises, and social unrest. The Vietnam War tested public opinion, sparking widespread protest and debate about the nation's role in the world. Watergate scandal and other political controversies revealed the fragility of trust in government, forcing citizens to question authority and demand accountability. Yet through these trials, institutions endured, elections were held, and the principles of democracy continued to guide the nation. Even amid tension and disagreement, the economy underwent dramatic shifts. Manufacturing, once the backbone of American industry, declined in many regions, while technology, finance, and service industries expanded. Cities that had thrived on factories faced job losses, population decline, and social challenges, while new regions experienced growth, innovation, and opportunity. Immigration played a central role in this transformation, bringing new skills, cultures, and perspectives, enriching communities while also challenging Americans to embrace diversity in all its forms. In culture, entertainment became a defining feature of national identity. Movies, television shows, and music shaped how Americans imagined themselves and the world around them. Hollywood offered stories of adventure, romance, and heroism, while television brought real events, comedy, and drama into living rooms nationwide. Rock and roll, jazz, hip-hop, and other music genres reflected the dynamic energy of the country. Blending influences from across the globe and from generations past, the closing decades of the 20th century brought remarkable technological advances that changed daily life. Computers, the internet, and mobile communication transformed how people worked, learned, and connected. Information became instant, ideas spread quickly, and opportunities multiplied. Yet these changes also introduced new challenges, from questions about privacy and security to concerns about the social impact of rapidly evolving technology. The nation's ability to adapt, innovate, and debate these issues became as central to its story as its history of exploration, revolution, and growth entering the 21st century. The United States faced both promise and uncertainty. Events like the attacks on September 11 reshaped national security policies and collective consciousness, highlighting both vulnerability and resilience. Wars abroad, economic crises, and political polarization tested institutions, leadership, and the nation's sense of unity. At the same time, Americans continued to innovate, create, and strive for progress in science, medicine, culture, and social justice. The tensions between old and new, tradition and change, local and global, reflected the complexity of a nation built on diversity, ambition, and a continuous pursuit of freedom. Through these decades, Americans experienced remarkable achievements alongside profound struggles. Civil rights, gender equality, and environmental awareness reshaped society. Technological breakthroughs expanded possibilities and connected the world in ways unimaginable to earlier generations. Cultural expression thrived, reflecting the experiences, hopes, and creativity of countless communities. The United States became a nation defined not only by power and wealth but also by its capacity to confront challenges, debate ideas, and continually reinvent itself. Today, the history of the United States is a story of resilience, ambition, and complexity. It is a tale of exploration and settlement, of revolution and reform, of triumphs and tragedies. From the indigenous nations who first inhabited the land, to the colonists who fought for independence, to the modern citizens shaping the 21st century, each chapter reflects the enduring human spirit. Each decision, struggle, and innovation contributed to the nation as it exists now, a country of vast landscapes, diverse peoples, and remarkable possibilities. As we look forward, the story is far from complete. The United States continues to face challenges in politics, social equality, and global leadership, while also offering opportunities for creativity, innovation, and positive change. The lessons of history remind us that the path of a nation is shaped not only by leaders and events but also by ordinary people whose daily actions, ideas, and courage leave lasting impact. The journey of the United States is ongoing, a continuous story of growth, challenge, and hope. The narrative of this nation teaches that freedom and opportunity are never guaranteed, they must be nurtured, defended, and expanded. It shows the power of vision, the importance of resilience, and the potential of a society willing to confront its flaws while striving toward ideals. And it reminds us that history is not just about the past. It is about understanding the present and shaping the future. If you have enjoyed this journey through time, exploring the people, events, and ideas that shaped the United States, remember that the story of the nation is still being written. There are always new perspectives, new voices, and new chapters waiting to be discovered. I share stories like this every day. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.